available probably by email, I think is probably the best way to do it. Probably post it to the website and then share the link with y'all. So if you guys received the email yesterday, the reminder email, then that means you're on the list. When you registered, you were on the list. So you should receive this probably sometime tomorrow or so. We got a lot of requests to have this thing recorded. So for some people who couldn't be here. So that's cool. We're happy to do that. So we are recording, we're live, people are continuing to show up. So let's get started. My name is Tom Copeland. I am the marketing director at the law offices of Craig Goldenfarb. With me here today, as you guys know, is Craig himself. And this was really something that we had talked a little bit about. You know, unfortunately, we had the seven-figure attorney scheduled in New York in April of this year. It was a real bummer with COVID, obviously, canceling that. And, you know, so many of our participants who had registered and paid were so gracious in saying, you know, please, are you going to be doing it next year? You know, some people asked for refunds. Some people didn't even care. They just want to know that we're doing it next year. So we went right away to work in securing the dates for the following year for 2021. We did that same hotel. Basically just the date changed. Everything else is the same. So that's great. What we're doing here today was really just a quick thing to say, you know, thank you for your interest in our firm and what we do. It's a way for us to just stay connected with you. We have so many friends on here of the firm, many of Craig's friends, some of my friends, and also some new faces as well from some of the lawyer groups out there that we're associated with. So we really just want to do something to stay connected with y'all, let you know kind of what we've been up to these last couple of weeks. And hopefully you find some material in here, either in Craig's presentation and or mine, that you can kind of take with you and just keep. You know, we talked about charging. We decided not to. We just want to make it free because why not? We appreciate y'all, and we appreciate you thinking of our firms when and if it comes to making referrals here in Florida. We kind of want to be your Florida connection. We'll talk about that a little bit at the end. But basically, this is really just a session where we just want to give it to you guys. So the way that we're going to format this is Craig's going to speak with his presentation for a little bit. We're going to stop and do some questions and answers. We have our community relations manager, Ashley Spinelli, on the line with us. She's going to be documenting your questions as we go through our presentations. So the way to ask a question or to kind of get your question in queue would be to go ahead and just use the comments. You can just type your comment right in there. Ashley will be sort of following them and kind of documenting them. And then we'll take a break and hopefully we'll have lots of time to have that discussion. We'll be able to sort of unmute you. You know, we'll kind of ask the question. If we need a little more clarification, we can kind of unmute you if you've got a follow-up or what have you. So that's kind of how we're going to roll through it. And then I'll do my presentation, and then I'll do questions and answers at the end of that. And we should be out of here by 1:30. So that's the format. We hope you guys enjoy. We put some time into this and some thought into it. And this is all completely new material from our previous seven-figure attorney summits, and also completely unique from our future seven-figure attorney summits. This is really just focusing on COVID and how we responded to it as a firm and as a leadership team. So we hope you guys enjoy. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Craig, and I'm going to stop sharing. He's going to be able to share his presentation and get started when he's ready. Craig, you are unmuted. Could you test for me and make sure that's true?
Great. Thank you, Tom.
Let's
see. I'm going to start from the beginning. This looks perfect to me.
Craig, hit your display settings.
Yep.
And we're just going to swap it. Yep, there you go. You're good to go. You're in the clear.
Great. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I see we have a lot of people that joined today. I guess since COVID, we all learned what Zoom is. It's about my 900th Zoom conference. I probably have 10 Zooms per day. It's driving me crazy, but I become a professional Zoom expert like I guess you guys have. I'm going to speak for about 30 minutes, like Tom said, and then we'll do about maybe 15 minutes of question and answers, or, you know, that's a rough time estimate. And as Tom said, then he's going to talk and also have some questions and answers. So we wanted to do this in New York, but that didn't go through. So we're going to do this by Zoom, and let's get going. So thank you guys for attending. So the title of this is Surviving and Thriving During COVID-19, what we call a pandemic. So that's a great picture there of the COVID that Tom came up with that looks pretty awful. So as you know, COVID's pretty awful. So we got what happened. So before we start talking about COVID, for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm a PI lawyer in Florida, and I've been PI lawyer for about 25 years. I do mostly car accidents, slip and fall accidents, medical malpractice, nursing home neglect, legal malpractice, and my niche, liability for heart attacks in public places. I carefully track what percentage I do of all this stuff. So my bread and butter, like many of you, is car accidents and premises liability. Car accidents are about 60%, premises liability is about 30%, and then the remaining 10% is all these other areas where we do catastrophic injury. Right now, I have 9 lawyers, soon to be 10. Interesting, I've given this talk so many times. Tom and I have to update this every time because we keep growing, which is a beautiful thing. It's wonderful. So now I'm up to almost 60 staff, including still my first original employee. So we keep growing every year, and I just feel blessed that we can continue to do that. But it's due in part to the way I run my firm, the way Tom brilliantly markets this firm, that we continue to be blessed with continued growth. So in addition to everything I like to do in the community, I'm also the founder of a charity that matches up with my niche. That niche up there is liability for heart attacks in public places. I do that across the entire United States, and that is for where a person has a heart attack, for instance, at a gym, and there's no defibrillator there, and there's required to be a defibrillator there, and somebody dies. So I started a charity that was involved in giving away these devices for free to sports clubs where kids play sports. So that charity matches up with, I'm married, two daughters, age 17 and 19, who of course, like the rest of everybody else's families, are home in quarantine right now. So that's a little bit about who I am and my firm. So let's move on to talking about the awful thing that happened, which I see as an opportunity to distinguish yourself, because I see everything as an opportunity to distinguish yourself from other law firms. So my family feels about quarantine probably the same way your family feels about quarantine. That's my lovely wife, who I nickname Mama, giving me the one finger salute. That is my 19-year-old who feels the same. Her name, of course, is Drama. And then we have my 17-year-old on her iPhone. Her name is Trauma. Yes, drama and trauma are interchangeable depending on what day it is. So those are my 3 lovelies at home, and they hate quarantine just as much as you do. And I hate it as well. But it is an opportunity. So let's move on. So the declaration of emergency occurred on that wonderful date of March 13th, 2020. That's when we all went into a tailspin. So what happened? Triggers a state of emergency. We all have those of you who are an Atticus or do any studies on the brain, that's where your amygdala kicks in and the fight or flight kicks in, and your old brain starts to freak out, and everybody went into a state of panic. So that, I call that amygdala day. That's when we started freaking out and figuring out what the hell was going to happen. So March 13th was amygdala day. And so what did that mean for us? Well, fewer cars on the road means fewer car crashes. Of course that's true, but that's the first part of the analysis. Holy crap, we're not going to sign up new cases. And then I do 30% slip and falls. So fewer people are out and about, and that means fewer premises cases. If you add up those 2 things, that is 90% of my business. 60% auto, 30% premises. Holy crap, 90% of my business, the incidents are going to stop. Another amygdala challenge is 90% of my business is going to stop. Oh my gosh, what do I do? So the result is a severe reduction in new cases for this foreseeable future. We had a meeting even before March 13th to figure out what are we going to do. I'm sure you guys all had that same meeting and had the same reaction that I did. So like every crisis, what do you have to do to get through a crisis? Well, you have to unemotionally plan and plan for it. So we kicked into plan mode. I have 6 departments. At my law firm, we had a leadership meeting. In fact, we had a leadership meeting probably twice a day for a couple of weeks to determine how we were going to plan and what we were going to do. So what did we do? I'll tell you what we did. So we came up with a strategy, or a series of strategies for surviving and thriving, and figured out, okay, so if the car accidents and slip and falls are not going to happen, what the hell are we going to do to get cases? And what are we going to focus on? And how are we going to stay alive? And how are we going to stay solvent? So the first thing you have to do is figure out what your goals are. And the goals, of course, are to try to not have to lay anybody off or fire anybody or furlough anybody. But you have to do a very dispassionate analysis to figure out what your goals were and what they're going to be. So we came up with three goals. The first was to maintain and expand our referral relationships. Now, why do we do that? Because we know that there are some cases sitting on the desks of real estate attorneys and other types of attorneys that already exist. And they're just waiting for the right opportunity to refer those cases. So we wanted to make sure to reach out and touch base with our referring sources, because those are cases that are sitting there waiting to be referred, and that's not dependent on a car accident happening today or tomorrow. It's cases that already exist. The second part of the strategy was, of course, to manage our work processes and staff to maximize working from home. So we had to do a soup to nuts analysis of what this law firm does at our firm day to day, and analyze all of our existing processes and figuring out what will translate home and what will not. And we have almost 60 employees, all of whom wanted to work remotely, including me. So it took a daily meeting or double two-a-days to figure out what translated home. So we had to figure that out. And the third part of the plan was to monitor and regulate cash flow to ensure that we survived and that we continued to make money. So I'm going to go into each of these three strategies in a little bit of detail and talk about each one of them, and then the subsets under each of these three strategies. So I'm going to do that now. So the first is maintain and expand your referral relationships. So like many of you, I depend on referrals for a certain percentage of my cases. I think it's between 15 and 20% right now of my cases come from referrals. And that's lawyers, doctors, etc. And I'm not including clients in this subset. But I wanted to make sure that I touch base with all of my referrals. So how do you do that when everybody's at home and everybody's freaking out? So I thought reaching out to referral sources at that point in March and now is more crucial than ever, because you got to make sure that you continue to get referrals, because the car accidents aren't happening. So I have 4 marketing lunches a week typically. For those of you who've heard me talk before about time management, I do 4 marketing lunches a week, and then typically the 5th one is with an employee. So I want to make sure that I kept those marketing lunches going. Now, a lot of people may have canceled all their lunches because it's not, you can't do it. You can't have lunch. But what I did is I decided to keep them on with Zoom, and then I'd use Uber Eats or DoorDash or some other company to have lunch delivered to their home or to their office so they can join me. Now, some people are embarrassed to eat food in front of me, or I'm embarrassed to eat food in front of them during the lunch. So at least it gets delivered, and maybe it sits there from 12 until 1 until we're done, and they can eat afterwards. Or a couple people will eat at the same time as I'm talking. So it's up to your comfort level. But keep your lunches on. You might want to make them non-lunches. Maybe they're 15-minute talks. But it's good to keep those referral meetings on in some method. I talked to a lawyer in one of my groups who buys his referral sources dinner and makes it dinner and wine instead of lunches. And I thought that was lovely, a little more expensive, but what a great idea to buy your referral sources dinner instead of lunch. I thought that's a super idea. So I kept my marketing lunches on, and I strongly suggest you do everything you can to keep your marketing meetings on in some way. The next is call your top 20 referral sources. Now you may think, geez, really, get on the phone? Yes, get on the phone, identify your top 20 referral sources, and actually call them. Call them on their cell phone. I assume that if they're your top 20, you might be best friends with them or good friends with them. Call and check in. Don't do it so that they refer you cases. Do it to make a connection. How you doing? How's your family? How you holding up? I did that, and I called a lot of my referral sources just to check in and say hello. A lot of them were people I haven't talked to in a while. So it was very helpful. So I put at the end of this one, be a resource. So what I did as far as being a resource is doing seminars like this. I've done about 5-6 seminars since March 13th, where I've been a resource for people, whether it's helping them with the PPP rules, the Payroll Protection Act rules, which I spent a whole weekend studying so I could get a good loan, or whether I'm looking up other articles on how to survive during COVID. I wanted to be the guy that you call if you want to know, well, what should I be doing on this, or what should I be doing on that during COVID? So I called and I was a resource for my top 20 people. And yes, I know it takes time, but there are things that are not occurring that are creating this time for you if you're not able to do depositions. You have a little extra time. Call them, actually call them. And I hadn't done this in a while, so I found it to be great to actually call them. The next was to be proactive. And in addition to calling them, so what we did as a law firm was that, because we're personal injury, I assigned Ashley, who's my community relations director, to actually call the chiropractors we work with to find out if they're working, what hours they're working, how they're handling their patient interactions. So that was being proactive in the relationship with chiropractors and orthopedists we work with. So that was an additional opportunity to touch not only referral sources, but the doctors we work with. So that's what I mean by being proactive in your relationships. It's to reach out affirmatively, or have your staff reach out affirmatively to people that you have an important relationship with. Then we did something that is one of my favorite things to do, which is gifting. I gave a speech yesterday, actually, to Atticus on my gifting strategy. Atticus, I'll talk about at the end of the presentation, is a lawyer coaching organization. I gave a show and tell presentation yesterday via Zoom about gifting and all my gifting strategies, how I gift to referral sources. So what we did, if you look at the picture in the upper right of the screen, so we used a local coffee brewing company, and they have this great blend called the Brazilian blend. So we wanted to support a local company that was struggling. So we sent out gourmet coffee to our top 100 referral sources. And what we did is I had Ashley call all their offices to get their home addresses. Now, most doctors and lawyers are not going to give you their home address. But if you call their office and you say, well, we're looking to send a gift to Dr. Smith's home, you might get that home address. And I'm happy to say that we were 100% successful in getting the home address of all 100 referral sources we chose to send coffees to. And it was another opportunity for Ashley to reach out and be a smiling face on the phone and touch base with 100 referral sources. So we happen to have, if you look at the picture in the upper right, we happen to have left over from the South Florida Fair, which we sponsor. Strangely enough, we had ordered hand sanitizer about a year ago. It was one of our swag promotional items. So that blue thing in my hand happens to be sanitizer, believe it or not, which came in quite handy when COVID hit. So we enclosed with the coffee a little sprayable hand sanitizer. You can't imagine how many texts I got or emails I got enclosing a picture of their kid with the hand sanitizer saying, thank you for the blessing of the hand sanitizer, which we are using during COVID. So we got lucky on that one, on the hand sanitizer. So that was coffee and cleanliness was kind of my nickname for the mailing of coffee and the hand sanitizer. So we sent that out to 100 different people. So COVID gifting, we called it, gourmet coffee with hand sanitizer. There's still time to do that, folks. COVID still exists. Everybody's not back to work. Send out a COVID gift. Just because I like numbers, they cost me, I don't know, I think $30 each, including mailing. The total cost of this project was just under $2,000. $2,000 for 100 coffees and hand sanitizer. My average fee per case is just under $20,000, I'm happy to say. So I spent $2,000 If I got one case from it, that's a 10-to-1 return. That's a pretty good ROI on a mail out, is a 10-to-1 return. And I touched 100 referral sources. I spoke yesterday, as I mentioned, on gifting. I got a lot of my gifting techniques and strategies from a book that I read about a year ago called Giftology. It's a really easy book to read. It took me about an hour and a half. If you want to learn a lot about gifting, order this book. It's $15 maybe at Amazon. A tremendous book to order, really easy read. It taught me a lot of what I talked about yesterday in my seminar on gifting to referral sources. It is just super. So, and I had everyone in my marketing department read Giftology so that it could spur ideas for them. So that's expanding your referral relationships. And boy, it has paid off, I'll tell you. The second topic is, or the second strategy we used was to manage our work processes and staff to maximize remote efficiency. Now, that's a lot of fancy words for making sure that everything we do at the office, we can do at home. So we had to do a soup to nuts analysis of, well, what the heck do we need to do? And what do we need to do to make ourselves money and keep afloat? So the first thing I did is to shift my firm's focus to things that keep us alive. Well, if your ship is sinking, you need to worry about getting water out of the ship, or making sure you're whatever you need to do to keep that ship afloat. So we needed to figure out, well, what is it that makes us money? So you're a personal injury attorney. What makes you money? Number one is demand letters, right? That makes you money. So we had to identify that as something that makes us money. Number two, negotiating files. Yes, that makes you money, because the only way you can settle a case is by actually negotiating files. Number three, most important, processing receivables and the closing process. So what does that mean? So those are cases that you've settled them, but you haven't taken your fee. You've settled them, but you haven't taken your fee. We identified in our somewhat large law office, we had more than 90 files, 90, where we had settled the case, but we had not taken a fee yet. I call those receivables, or in businesses, that's AR, accounts receivables. That's product that you've sold, but you haven't taken the money. It's not in your cash register yet. So those are the three things we decided to focus on. But that's great if you decide. Deciding is not action, it's just a decision. So once I decided those are the three things I need to focus on, we had to move to phase two, which is to restructure our workflows to match these three things. So if that's what makes us money, well, I have 60 people. We need to tell those 60 people, this is what you're going to focus on, folks. So we had to restructure our workflow to match this shift. In other words, my people were spending a lot of time before COVID worrying about making sure that clients were treating, right? That's what we worry about all day. Are your clients treating? Well, that went away because our clients weren't treating. The chiropractor's offices were closed. So we had to reshift from medical management and treatment management to the three things above. So demand letters, we focused on that to start. We had to go paperless, because how do you mail demand letters from home without a massive copy machine? So we went paperless. We had to find out which insurance companies would accept a demand letter by email. Which of them had other portals or methods of submitting demand letters? Was it by a jump drive? Was it by some other method? So we had to actually call the insurance companies and ask. So we went paperless with our demand process. I'm sure some of you already are, but we weren't. We were still sending big packages, which doesn't work during COVID because everybody doesn't have copy machines at home. Then we installed Ring Central onto our employees' cell phones to mask their personal number. That matches up with negotiating files. I did not want my lawyers and my staff calling Progressive Insurance Company from their home cell phones or their home phones. So we installed Ring Central app, great app, and that allows us to have our lawyers and our staff call people, and it masks your personal number. So if you haven't done that already, you can do that for yourself too. So you can call your clients and they don't now have your cell phone number. So Ring Central was the app we used for that. And then the third thing was we already had a program in our office, DocuSign or EchoSign. Those are the two top of the line companies where you can sign remotely. But within our case management system called FileVine, which we use, it actually has its own remote signing capability that's linked to the CRM called VineSign. So we actually all got trained and learned how to use VineSign. So whether you use EchoSign, DocuSign, VineSign, the most important part is we need to learn how to sign things from our house without a pen. So that was how we matched up our workflow to the things that were essential for survival. So if you'll see the three things I note above match with the three things how we restructured our workflow. So the key to surviving is to be adaptable and to maximize your work processes and then convert them. It's kind of like, you know, the companies that during COVID are converting from producing one type of machine to producing ventilators. It's the same thing. You're still building a machine, but you have to convert your product from napkins to face masks or from machines to ventilators. That's what we did. We did a shift of how we did our work. So that's the second thing. Manage your work processes and staff to maximize your ability to get your job done. So let's move on to the third piece of the puzzle, which is money. And I saved this for last because this is where we all freaked out. Monitor and regulate your cash flow to ensure that you can survive. So what did I do? I realized that the freak out portion was, are we going to go broke? So I set up a cash flow committee. We immediately got people in our accounting department, our IT department, our receivables, our closing department. We all formed a committee on cash flow. And we meet once a week to talk about money in and money out. So what do we talk about? Well, as I said, we have regular and frequent cash flow analysis meetings. We have them every Wednesday, and we meet with everybody in bookkeeping about what we're paying, everybody in receivables to figure out what receivables are coming in or what number they're at. But you must have this meeting. If you're a solo practitioner or you have one employee, this meeting might be every day, because you're talking about important decisions as to what bills to pay, what not to pay. So that's the first point. What is essential? What is non-essential? Should you be batching all of your deposition transcript bills together and holding off? Or should you pay them? Should you be paying rent? Should you not be paying rent? So one of the criteria we used was if it's going to gain interest or charge us interest, pay it. Pretty simple. We paid off our credit card bills because those accrue interest. Our rent, we decided to pay rent because there was a provision in our lease that if we don't pay rent, there's a penalty. Now I could have called them and negotiated that out or asked for an extension, but luckily we were able to afford rent, so we decided to pay rent. But we went through all the different categories in QuickBooks and decided what we should pay and what we should not pay. And then we meet each week to see if that changes. Because what if you're out of money? Well, if you're out of money, you go into what I call austerity mode, which is we can't pay barely anything. So you got to shift your focus week to week. It could be that one week you can afford to pay the deposition bills that you just got, and then you're getting so bad that now you got to stop and you can't afford to pay those bills for depositions anymore. So we went into our QuickBooks. I looked at every single account, every single expense to decide categories, and we labeled them essential or non-essential. And then the last is the toughest part, and this is the one that pulls at your heartstrings, which is your people. As you may know, I take great pride in the culture of my law firm, and my goal was to not fire anybody. That was my goal. And I didn't even want to furlough anybody. I wanted to keep everybody employed. So my internal goal that I shared with my leadership team was 100% retention as long as possible. But that's not possible for everybody or every law firm. So what you have to do is you have to monitor and regulate your staff hours and pay. So there are several options. And one is, of course, to reduce the hours. Do you reduce people from 40 hours to 30 hours? Do you reduce people from 40 hours to 20 hours? One of the things we put in place was no overtime. We used to have overtime allowed when approved. It had to be approved. But we put in a strict no overtime policy for a certain time period because that's expensive. So we're still at that right now. We may lift that soon, the no overtime, but that was one regulation we put in, no overtime. We did not have to reduce hours, but I know that a lot of law firms went from 40 to 30. And I also put there reducing salaries, which is important. I think it looks horrible if you reduce the hourly pay and you do not reduce the salaried employees that concurrently with the same percentage. For example, if you reduce the hourly employees from 40 to 30, that's a 25% reduction. Reduce the salaried employees by 25% as well. It looks really bad if the salaried employees stay at 100% employment and the hourly people do not. That's just my opinion. So we're all in this together. If I do have to reduce hours, I'm going to reduce all the salaried employees as well, including myself. We're all in the same ship. So that's just something that I decided to do. The next is providing a clear directive as to what your staff should be working on. So the reason I have this under here is because what I found out was one of my lawyers, even though we gave a directive that they should be working on closing out their files, in other words, the receivables, working on their closing statements, one of my lawyers was spending all his time at home doing discovery responses. What the heck was he doing discovery responses when he had $1 million in receivables he should have been working on, literally $1 million in receivables. So you need to make sure that your staff is on board with what you want them to be doing. Because if they're working on discovery responses, they are not doing what you want them to be doing. So that's why I put in there a clear directive to your employees as to what they should be doing. So that's the third part, is monitoring cash flow. So I summarized my three cornerstones of how we're surviving COVID. We've been doing great. Tom is going to talk a little bit later about how the intakes have been reduced. And that's the second half of the puzzle, is intakes and getting new cases. But I wanted to talk about the first half of the puzzle, which is management, operations, and transferring and transforming your law firm. If I could sum it up, I heard this from, or read this in one of the many books I read on executive management. It's plan your work and work your plan. So we started off by planning, but planning is not enough. Work your plan is a fancy term for actual implementing. You can plan your work all you want and do a beautiful spreadsheet about what you're going to do. But if you don't do it, then you're going to fail. So that's a summary of planning your work and working your plan, and the three tiers I did for that. I wanted to conclude by some of the things I talk about in other lectures, which are 5 helpful tips for building your business, COVID or not. I've got another minute or two in my 30 minutes, so I think I'm going to land this plane on time. So these are 5 tips I've used over 25 years. That if you don't record this, if you're not recording this, if you want to grab your cell phone and snap a picture when I'm done with the 5 of these, I strongly recommend, as a guy who does pretty well myself, that these are 5 real good building blocks and tips that I've used. The first is I've been a student of Atticus for 20 years. It's the largest lawyer coaching organization in the United States. I bet that probably half of the people on this call right now are familiar with Atticus or are members in Atticus. It is absolutely one of the things I attribute my success to. The person at Atticus who does all the intakes and is the head of intake is Dan Struna. take a picture of this. If you want to get a free law practice evaluation, I think they usually charge $150 or $200 for this. But if you go through Dan and drop my name, Craig Goldenfarb, I'll do it for you for free. Takes about 45 minutes, I think. And he'll tell you what course maybe you could start. I really strongly suggest this. And I've been a member of probably 5 different lawyer coaching organizations or been a student. This is by far the most rewarding, at least in my experience. The rest are some books. I've read probably 50 or more books on business management, leadership, but these are a few of my favorites. Mindset by Carol Dweck talks about how I got through COVID by being optimistic. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. She also has some YouTube videos. One of her best is 3 minutes long. Yep, 3 minutes long, summarizing what she means by mindset. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is by just a master business organization guy by the name of Patrick Lencioni. I've read several of his books. That's on leadership and growth through relationship building within your law firm. We actually had a firm retreat of our leadership team based on the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team structure. Absolutely fantastic book. This one's an oldie but a goodie. 1931, Dale Carnegie writes a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It is the longest lasting book that's been a bestseller since 1931. Amazing book if you've never read it. It's so basic, and it's so interesting because it's based on stories of what was happening in the world in 1931, but everything still applies. And then the last one, there's a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. He worked with two lawyers on making a book called The E-Myth for Lawyers. And it talks about the difference between being a technician, which is just a lawyer, and being an entrepreneur, which is a business owner. So those are some tips, some resources I've used over the years in helping me grow to the size I am today and helping me grow as a person, which I think is just as important as growing as a business. So my bold request. I'm here in Florida, sunny Florida. We got opened up Monday. You can go to the beach now. You can get a haircut, which I haven't done yet. But I'm here in Florida. I handle personal injury referrals across the country. Let me write you a big check. If you have any clients who are injured in Florida or you know of any Florida cases, that's my bold request. And if you want to refer us a case, that is the way to refer us a case, or just Google me and you'll be able to find me pretty easily. But that's our intake email. So thank you if you were to be so kind as to refer me a case. And the next is to attend our summit, which has been rescheduled. It's a full day. It's actually Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday night, we have a happy hour. Thursday, we have the full day summit that's been rescheduled for Thursday, April 22nd, 2021, assuming the world is open by then and New York is safe. That's at a beautiful hotel in Manhattan. You can register now or register after this seminar if you use the code MINISUMMIT. Tom is going to re-show this slide in his presentation. So you can either take a picture of this with your phone if you'd like to, or just remember 7-Figure Attorney Summit, where you get a whole day of me and several other speakers talking about how we run our law firm.
Yeah, and apologies real fast. It just looks like your the formatting on that PowerPoint kind of came out crooked. But for the record, it's 7figureattorney.com. And the coupon code you can use for $100 off is MINISUMMIT. One word, just like that.
Thank you, Tom. So we've got a few minutes for questions and answers. I think Ashley is going to pick out some. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for listening. It's been an honor to talk about what I do, and I love talking about what I do. So I'm going to turn this over to Ashley, and we'll go from there. So, Ashley, are you unmuted?
I think I am.
You are.
Wonderful. Ashley, fire away with some good questions from the folks who are listening.
Okay, so the first question that I have is from Stacy Wagner, and the question is, have you found a good provider for remote notary services?
That's funny. We had that conversation in our leadership meeting this morning, and my chief of operations
I've got the name, Craig.
Do you?
I do, yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off, but yes, I do have the name for you guys. And just to qualify this, as like Craig is talking about, I mean, there was multiple conversations, lots of research that was done, and our operations head landed on a company called Doc Verify. Looks like that's one word. So we're happy to share that with you guys. Doc Verify is the company that she decided, in her opinion, we're going to go with. So that's good enough for us.
So we compared, and by the way, the monthly charge, the first company was $24 per month per notary, per e-notary. And the one Tom just said is down to $10 per month per notary. And we have chosen 4 staff members to get the e-notary. So that difference is going to be quite a lot of money. So it went from 24 bucks a month down to $10 a month per person. So thank you for that great question. And hopefully that company does well for us and will do well for you. Next question, Ashley.
I have a question from Jane. They didn't get a screenshot in time of the book recommendations that you gave. So if you could please repeat the different books that you had on the chat.
Sure. Let me get
Craig,
there.
and it looks like you are we're still seeing your screen, so you could actually just scroll up to that slide. You went a little too far there. Yeah, I think it's like 2 slides back. It's like 2 slides up. There we go. And then now you could actually present from current slide. That'll make it a little bit bigger, and that'll allow. There we go. That'll should allow you guys to see it. Well, it's on the presenter view. There you go.
There you go. So I'll leave that up while we take the next question.
Okay. So the next question is from Anne. Did you reduce marketing spend?
Well, that's a great question. So one of the weekly meetings that I didn't tell you about was my weekly meeting with Tom, which was to go over all aspects of our marketing. So I spend an hour a week talking about the different marketing, he calls them funnels or channels that we do. We probably have 30, Tom, maybe 30 different ways we market or more, maybe up to 50. So we had a special meeting on our TV ads, our radio buy, our billboards. But to boil it down to solo practitioners, to talk about all the different channels you use, maybe you only use 3 or 4. Maybe all you do is print ads. Maybe all you do is take people out to lunch. So the answer to your question is that we had a specific meeting on that once a week to determine where we would reduce and where we would expand. And we expanded marketing with the referral sources. We reduced on billboards. If you think about it, people aren't on the roads, so we went off billboards. So each marketing funnel or channel has its own analysis depending on how COVID affects it. So the answer to your question is meet and talk about each of your marketing channels, and the answer to each channel is going to be different. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, Craig really nailed it there. I don't have anything to add to that other than just to say stick around, because I do have a slide where I talk specifically about, get into about how we made that analysis, and I've got sort of some tips for how you can approach that same analysis as well. So definitely stick around. That's in my presentation. That's a great question.
Great question. So Tom, is your presentation 30 minutes and 15 for questions, or how much should I do more in questions?
Well, it doesn't look like we have very many questions to go, so maybe Ashley can keep rifling through them.
Great, thanks.
Okay, great. So the next question is from Michael McCready. So what consideration have you given to reduce revenue in 12 to 24 months when the reduced intakes today are settling?
That's a great question. So we did with Atticus, which I'm not sure you're in, Mike. I know you're in Chicago, but Atticus has a tool on their website. I think it's free, called the Cash Flow Projection Tool. And that was a wonderful tool that I used in order to figure out what's going to happen in 9 to 12 months when the lack of intakes now has a financial projection. So what we did is we are planning for a downturn 9 to 12 months. So we are reducing spend possibly in 9 to 12 months. We're well aware of that income. We're actually, we have some big cases. We may put off our income, like you can defer income for 9 to 12 months. But what was pointed out this morning at a leadership meeting, which was an excellent point, was that the lack of intakes is allowing a better production in the rest of our production pipeline. So because we're only signing up a reduced amount of intakes, we're getting more demand letters out the door. We're getting more settlements settled through negotiation. And we are actually increasing the speed of how our pre-suit department is working. So my thought is that it's going to produce income that's going to flow into the danger period of 9 to 12 months from now. So hopefully we'll be able to smooth out that, smooth the curve. Speaking of COVID, we're gonna smooth out the curve and extend the curve so that we won't have a big drop in 9 to 12 months. And I thought that was really well done at the leadership meeting this morning with my firm, that we pointed out that hopefully we'll be able to smooth out the curve by increasing our receivables in the short term. So good question, Mike.
Okay, next question I have is from Arcady. Do you use a company to order and track medical records?
It's funny. It's another great question. We have tried through, I have a chief operations officer who is wonderful. They have interviewed up to 10 different companies for this over the last 5 years. And then they've called the references. In other words, they've called law firms to say, how do you like them? It is unbelievable to me that I have yet to have a law firm reference say, these guys are so much better than those guys, or that we are so happy with this records retrieval company. That is such an area of our industry that has not been perfected yet, whether it's people in India, people in the Philippines, people wherever, that I think that it's a sector that is maybe one that can't be perfected. And I'm subject to being proven wrong on that. But we've interviewed literally 10 companies and then called their references, and none of them seem to be able to do it really well, because all of the hospitals and companies, they're changing constantly with the companies they're using to outsource. And then you have to deal with all those crappy companies. So I may be wrong. There may be a really good company that does it. I know Sandy Van, who's on this call from Las Vegas. I think she has her own company that does this. And there are a lot of different companies out there, but we've done a lot of research and a lot of due diligence. We still do it in-house. And as a metrics guy, we've analyzed this a lot. So I am absolutely subject to being proven wrong, but we have failed in our efforts to outsource that particular project. So sorry, I can't give you a winner on that one. Next question.
Okay, next question is from Elsie. What do you use to track all of your marketing channels?
Tom, are you going to address that in your presentation?
Yeah, it's a big it's a long question I could spend a lot of time on, so I'm going to kind of try to defer it a little bit. I don't go through it in this one, but in fact, I actually do go through it, and this is not a sales pitch, although it probably should be. I do actually go through it at the 7-Figure Attorney Summit. So that's one of my slides at our normal summit that we do in person, is I go through some of my favorite like apps and analytics that we're using. I've done it every year, and every year that list kind of changes because I'm constantly adding things and taking things off. But generally, I mean, I'm happy to just say our big ones are, a mix between some of the ones that are provided by Google. So Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, that gets into the weeds in terms of development and using cookies to track and pass through user-centric data. But then, to things like, CallRail. I've become a pretty big fan of CallRail in the last 2 years or so. Basically use call tracking software and call tracking numbers to track all of the referral sources. That all pipes directly into FileVine, so it gives us inside FileVine a sort of the truth in data platform that we use to run that I use to run all the ROI modeling. So that's part of the reason why I use CallRail. And then there's lots of them. I do talk in my presentation coming up today about one of the apps that we integrated this past year that I've been really happy with. It just happens to be in the slide, so I'm happy to touch on it for a quick second when we get there. But unfortunately, it's just kind of a big question and with lots of answers, a very long answer. But the short of it is there's a lot of good tools out there. There's a lot of good free tools out there. Google provides a number of them. Google Analytics, obviously being the biggest one for web traffic. And then Filevine, Filevine informs us. We depend on Filevine very integrally to tell us, what kind of cases we have, when they come in, where they come from.
I also wanted to chime in on that. Two things. The first is, because of the difficulty of this, one of my first hires when I was only about 8 employees was a marketing director, because 60% of what Tom just said, I didn't even know what it meant. So if it's something that someone else has a skill set for, like monitoring your marketing channels, which were 3 words that I never even knew 10 years ago, it's an important hire that you do early. I would think I may have been at 8 people when I hired my first marketing person. So as far as monitoring your marketing, hire a Tom. That's my overwhelming piece of advice. And also, for those of you on the mastermind chat room or the maximum lawyer chat room, on May 28th, I'm giving a free Zoom on my Filevine and my analytics. It's free. I'm actually screen sharing a lot of the analytics that we're talking about. So if you're on either of those chat rooms, Maximum Lawyer or Mastermind, that Zoom link has already been posted. So search your Zoom links to see me do a screen share May 28th. That's next Thursday, 1:30 to 3 o'clock. It's free. And I'm going to be sharing all my analytics for an hour and a half on Filevine and Domo, which works with Filevine. So another free opportunity to see the insides of my law firm. So Ashley, next question. We'll take a couple more.
So it looks like this one is our last question. It's from C. Todd. How are you processing your mail while your office is closed?
Again, a great question. That was one of our first meetings, was how are we going to do mail? So we had our reception, of course, didn't have much to do. So we assigned reception with the task of being in charge of all incoming and outgoing mail. And one of our receptionists called and found out where the local FedEx office was, the local UPS office was, and I think there's another couple companies, and then found out where the post office was, which of course I didn't know where any of these things were. So she had to go twice a week to each of these places and instruct them not to deliver the mail, or UPS, or FedEx, or DHL, or whatever. So she went twice a week to pick up these things, and she brought it in. So that's how we got the mail. We did not have it forwarded to my house or her house or anybody's house, because that's kind of a nightmare. Although if you're a solo practitioner with 1 employee, maybe that works for you. It wasn't going to work for us because we get, hundreds of pieces of mail per day. So we had a mail strategy, and that was one of the first things we met with. So I think the important point is that we had a meeting about it, and that's how we did it. As far as making sure that we got the mail. And then we had a mail processing procedure that we set up that was designed by my administration team to handle and process mail remotely. So I hope that answers the question.
And I just want to throw it out there, since we got sort of to the end of the questions. For any questions, we saw a few in there, like, can we get the link to this? So any questions that are requests, you guys can post them in the comments, and Ashley will go through them later. And just make sure that if you have a request like, hey, can we get the link to that next seminar you're doing or whatever, we'll make sure that we address that with you. We've got everybody who's attended on their emails. We've got everybody's emails and names, so we know who made the comment, and we can follow up on any requests. So if you have a request, not a question, feel free to just post in the comments, and just know that we'll get to it. Okay. All right. Well, I guess if there's no other questions, thank you, Ashley. Craig, it looks like a 3-year-old took a crayon to your screen. Not sure how that happened. Or is that
was that some attendee's child?
So I'm going to go ahead and, yeah, there you go. Your office screen share. I'm going to go ahead and share mine here, everyone. Stand by.
I see Nicole. Is that your new employee next to you, Ms. Laughlin? Cute kid.
All right. Looks like it's my go. So Thanks for that, Craig. That was great. Lots of good info in there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that presentation, and you'll enjoy mine. So I'm going to go ahead and hop on. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is a little bit about me. You guys know my name is Tom Copeland. I'm with this firm. I've been with the firm since 2003, so it's been a pretty wild ride these last 7 years. 2020, maybe the wildest ride of all. It's been something, but it's been an incredible journey, and I've been so blessed to be part of this organization. It really is a fantastic organization, and I'm not just saying that because our boss is here, but saying it because I truly mean it, and that's why I've been here for so many years. I guess if I had to describe myself, I'm kind of an all-around web artist. I'm experienced in traditional media buying and PR, but web development, coding, building architecture, development is really my tradition, is really my skilled backgrounds. But I wrote in here, but don't call me a guru. Don't call me a guru. If somebody calls themselves a guru, my general advice is to run. I've consulted with firms in the past on hiring creative talent, building marketing automation, and doing custom design, user experiences, user interfaces, and programming projects. That makes up a big part of what I do here at this firm now. We are deep into marketing automation and using technology to better perform our services for both our client and our staff. Streamlining and creating efficiencies through technology and software has really been a focus the last couple of years for us, and we're really proud of the progress and the things we've been able to build because of that. And my day mostly consists of advising on best practices, providing support for the rest of the team members here in the firm, building and improving those software workflows like I mentioned, and managing an in-house, what is essentially an in-house agency team. We talk a little bit about the summit, about our structure in the marketing department. We have me as the director, but I have hired over the years a number of very talented people who have come in and handled different aspects of sort of the marketing machine, if you will, with a digital marketing manager. We have, of course, our community relations manager who's on the call here, Ashley, who's been phenomenal. She's our most recent hire. Been with us almost 2 years, I think. So that's she's just been fantastic building those referral relationships. And then customer relations manager as well. So let's talk about why you guys are all here. So what does Tom do for Goldenfarb during a quarantine in the midst of a novel coronavirus outbreak? Well, one thing. Here it is. Internet memes. Obviously just internet memes. That's all I do all day. Sorry, Craig, to break it to you. Craig has not seen this presentation, by the way. So so this should get a couple of kicks. Internet memes, that's really all I do. So what I've done is I have, first and foremost of this entire presentation, is I have went out and combined the best of quarantine memes out there. Personal injury edition. I'm very proud of that. So we've got this one. I think it's a Batmobile. This one I included because all good internet memes have cats in them. That is a prerequisite for a good internet meme. And then this one because if you've seen the show, you love this as much as I do. So just a little throwaway thing there. But the truth is, we're really here to talk about what's going on in the midst of this pandemic and how we've responded as a law firm and sort of the direction that I've taken this firm from a marketing standpoint to respond to it. But let's first talk about some numbers and kind of where we're at. And you can kind of use this to compare it to your firm and see if your firm sort of lines up with this. I'd imagine you're probably seeing the same thing we are. So we're not afraid to share this. So secret that car accident crashes and intake leads are down. Those are down by about 35% for us. It's about mid-March when this whole thing really started to grip the nation. Slip and falls are down more than that, as you might intuitively suspect, at about 50%. And then all other case types are down by about 55%. So all in all, that comes out to a roughly 50% decrease. You can compare that to your firm and see if you kind of follow along the same lines. Maybe you're in a practice area where you weren't as affected, or maybe you're in a practice area that you were wholly affected like we are in personal injury. And then looking kind of bigger picture, zooming out a little bit, our major corridor here in South Florida is I-95. I-95, of course, goes up the whole coast of the United States. So you might have some similar traffic patterns on your neck of I-95 if you happen to be on that track. I-95 traffic, I pulled from FDOT. That's down about 28% since mid-March. That's data that's posted online that I've kind of been following. U.S. traffic, this is from NPR, down by about 40% across the nation. We're starting to hear stories about how, the air in Los Angeles is the smog is like gone because U.S. traffic is down by so much. Unfortunately, you might have also heard, as a side note, the news that unfortunately global warming hasn't really budged at all, which is kind of perplexing scientists right now. We'll see how that shakes out. Retail sales down by 16%. So what's unique about this number, 16% doesn't sound like a lot, but that is the single largest drop by multiples since the U.S. Retail Federation started tracking this on a monthly basis in the early 1990s. So usually the retail movement, this figure, the movement on this economic indicator is like 0.01, 0.02, 0.03, a fraction of 1% on any given month. 16% since March. And if you look at kind of that chart, it kind of does this for the last 20 years, and then it does this for this month. So, I kind of laugh, but it's scary. Retail sales are really getting killed. And of course, that means nobody's in stores. So we looked at all of this in about mid-March. As Craig kind of talked about, we were very proactive really from early March. We started to really recognize this thing and started having meetings. And then as it was for y'all, mid-March came around, the national emergency was declared. Stay-at-home was ordered across states, and that's really kind of what kicked it off. That was about mid-March. March 18th is actually when we went remote, which might have been probably right around the same time that you may have. And so it was leading up to that date that we were already starting to lay our plans and think about what this might look like and how we're going to respond to it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our communications plan in sort of two aspects here. The first thing that I really wanted to drive across was I wanted people to know that we're going to stay open and we're going to keep working cases. And then I also wanted them to know that we're still accepting new referrals. Sounds rather intuitive, right? Of course, but what's non-intuitive is the work that goes behind it to get it done. And that's kind of what my presentation is a little bit about, what we actually did to accomplish those goals. And then sort of a second subset was to making sure that we take advantage of the circumstances from a business standpoint. You heard Craig kind of talk about, how he directed his lawyers and his staff to focus on what matters. I sort of did the same thing, but from a marketing standpoint. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well, which included basically continuing to stay connected to our staff was incredibly important, and then renegotiating some media, TV, and advertising buys as well. All right, so our COVID-19 communications plan from the perspective of the web really just centered around the website and social media. So we anticipated I think correctly now in hindsight, now that we've got some data of how people are interacting with our website, I kind of anticipated that what's going to matter to clients at this time? Well, what's going to really matter is how do I get a hold of you, right? So how do I talk to you? How do I get information from you? So we kind of did some stuff, some novel things on the website to help make that easy. So from the moment you hit the homepage, you've got a couple of prompts, and one of them was a ribbon that was stuck to the top of every page that I built that pushes them to a COVID-19 response plan page, which I'm going to show you on the next slide. And then down here is an app, a chat app we use. There is a ton of chat apps out there. It's no secret because you could learn it by just going to our website, what chat app we use. I use one called Intercom because it's highly customizable. It costs about the same or a little bit less than some of the other ones. And you can actually train your staff to be the chat people. So we actually have our intake staff is trained, and so is our community relations manager who's on my team in marketing. They are trained to manage this chat. So it's really nice that we can say, hey, you can chat with an employee. You can chat with a law firm employee right now. You can also build in all kinds of automated workflows with it. It's pretty advanced. I won't spend too much time on it, but if you are interested, Intercom is what we use. And Intercom allowed us to post, one of the features is that you can post specific messages on specific pages or all pages. So I have this little message that pops up when you hit our website that invites you to learn about our coronavirus response plan. When you click on that and you follow through, either on the ribbon or through the chat, then you're met with our preparedness plan page. Now, this is just a WordPress website with a page that was published And there's a couple of elements on here that, I really wanted to push onto our visitors. And one, again, is that ribbon. Another one is kind of building some helpful tools that make it easy for the user to get what they want. And one of them is this Find My Legal Team. This is just a custom little piece of code that I wrote that when given a client first name and a client last name that matches in our FileVine system, it actually returns the name, email address, and phone number of the paralegal and attorney assigned to the case. So kind of a nice way for you to learn very quickly who you want to get a hold of. I launched this and I got some click tracking cookies built into it, so I know how many people click on this. And I've seen a lot of hits to this page and then a lot of interaction stopping there. So people are using it, they're getting their information, they're bouncing. What they were looking for is they want to get a hold of somebody, it turns out. So this is actually a little piece of code that I've implemented on other areas of the page, like the Contact Us page, for example, as well. And I'm continuing to see it being interacted with and used. So that was pretty cool. Clear methods of contact. We give them multiple ways because everybody's different. Millennials like to text. Older folks, some of our older folks of older generations, they like to call. And then attorneys like to email. They like to email us their leads. So just giving multiple methods of contact and then letting you choose what you want was really important. And a little personal video touch. This did not take much to record. You guys know that cameras out there are cheap. Good cameras out there are cheap. There's video editing software that's a learning curve to learn, but you could learn it. I know lawyers who do shoot their own videos and post them. Some of you guys do that. But we have the advantage of having a team in-house. So we do that for Craig and some of the other lawyers as well. But I just want to encourage you that you could do it too. It's a little bit of a learning curve. It's definitely an investment of some time and some money, but it could make a difference for your firm if you choose to, really incorporate video. So we just did a quick little video touch where Craig talks for a minute, explaining what this page is all about and why we built it. And then Craig also wrote, I wrote for Craig with his help, a little personal letter and a plan that creates some text for you. So what did this do when you take the whole thing together? This hit a couple of needs, and it's all based on a formula. So the formula is simply, it's a simple page on our WordPress website. It's a quick personal video and a letter from Craig. We can use that content to compose blast emails. So I did a series of blast emails out to all of our customers, our customer base, and our leads as well. So I repurposed the content there. We used the content to compose the social media post too. And we also did some Facebook and Instagram ads. And I just wrote in there, it's to our clients because we just run our ads to our clients. We can segment that out in custom Facebook audiences. And then I sent about 3 email blasts in total. And the reason is I wanted to make it more about the overarching thing is that I wanted to make it about the client and the client's case to avoid just being another email in the inbox about the annoying how we respond to COVID emails. I'm sure you guys had the same experience that I did where I was getting, like 4 emails a day from different companies. I didn't even know why I was on their list, but I'd get an email from the CEO about how, we're here for you. So this was sort of designed with, hey, here's how this matters for your case theme throughout the entire letter for that reason. In fact, I think the email subject line was COVID-19 and how it affects your case, what you need to know. So we had very high open rates on those, high engagement, and that was really the goal. Now, our COVID-19 communications plan also included a TV spot that I shot. I recognize that there are certainly a lot of solo practitioners here where, maybe doing TV is just not your focus, and that's okay. Or maybe you're a big firm and you're just in a practice area where you don't do TV ads, But I wanted to share this because I wanted to get your creative juices flowing on how you can respond to COVID with video, whether it be on TV or whether it be perhaps on YouTube or social media. So I wanted our TV spot to be memorable. So in order to do that, I wrote it so that we captured attention with some unique visuals. We dramatized the anxiety in the spot so that the viewer feels related to the spot and what's happening on the screen. We offer a comforting and reassuring promise from the firm, from Craig. You'll see that. And of course, I brand to ensure that it's clear who we are, because the spot is not about personal injury. Call me, I'm a personal injury lawyer. It's about, hey, these are scary times. We recognize that. We're right there with you. But you know, as a law firm, here's how we're responding for our clients. And then most importantly, this is really, really crucial if you ever shoot a video. It's one of the tenements that I live by. I live and die by. You might already know that a sarcastic joke is coming. If you've been paying attention to my presentation here, always, and I mean always, insert Easter eggs for fun into all of your spots. So my Easter egg in this spot was that this was my home. We stuck our lovely community relations manager in there, looking like she's working from home. Those are my banana trees in the background. I got a whole banana tree plantation surrounding my pool, and that's our community relations manager. So get your Easter eggs in your videos. It's incredibly important. It's fun. But here's what we're going to do next. So I'm actually going to play this video. So this is our TV commercial. I think it's going to play. Ashley can text me if there's a problem on your end, y'all, and I'll try to figure it out. But this should actually play. So let's see what happens here.
In times of uncertainty and stress, we look for sure things. Sometimes it can be hard to tell who we can trust. And other times, it can feel like there are just no right answers. But one thing you can always count on is our law firm being ahead of the curve and prepared for any challenge. See how we're continuing to serve our clients throughout this crisis at www.800goldlaw.com. We are the law offices of Craig Goldenfarb, your partners in recovery.
So you saw the themes there. We had some themes, and those themes were, hey, scary, scary visuals. It's a scary time, creating the fear, but see how we're serving our clients. Go to our website. And if you remember from past slides, of course, when you go to our website, what do you hit with? All about coronavirus. Here's how we're responding. So it's all kind of ties together and flows together. And it is the result of really just some creativity and planning. That commercial has had God knows how many impressions, probably at this point between earned and paid, you know, probably upwards to close to at least 500,000 or 750,000 impressions. So it's out there. It's made the circulation on our TV buys, because I basically put it in as almost the only TV spot that we're running. So it's everywhere. And I was really pretty proud of that message. But I also want to, since we're on the topic of commercials, you know, shooting, writing, directing, and shooting these commercials and producing these commercials is one of my main roles here at the firm. So I've always got my eyes peeled for great commercials when I see them. So I actually want to share a few with you. We have a local chain here in probably all of southeastern United States, I think at this point. Publix, I just know they're everywhere in Publix. I think they're also in other states too. You might have one close to you. I was really impressed with Publix's series of commercials that they did. I thought they were really, really well done, and I wanted to share it with you to kind of get your creative juices flowing. So here we go. So they have a whole series of these. I'm not going to continue to play them. If you're interested, you can just go to their Publix YouTube channel. But I just want to share that because I thought that was really, really well done. You know, it matches the theme of who they are as an organization. It's quiet. I love that there's no voiceover, so it kind of captures your attention right off the bat. And it's really a message about community and togetherness. And I just thought that that would resonate really, really, really well. It certainly did with me, and I'm sure it did with many others. The next one that I saw, and this was actually done by a creative agency out of New York. They got a lot of attention for this campaign. I think it's called the Big Challenges campaign for Big Lots. It's fantastic. I'm gonna play it real fast. Let you guys enjoy it.
Think of your fellow man, lend him a helping hand. Put a little love in your heart. Now the world won't be a better place, and the world won't be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see.
Just a great example of a marketing campaign that's you know, again, you know, just brings about that togetherness. It emphasizes what they're doing as an organization to respond. And it just sort of does it with visuals and without words, and it just hits well. So just wanted to share those with you. I hope you kind of find those inspiring. Maybe you'll come up with something that might work for your firm, however you shoot it and get it out. And if not, that's just a good example of how some companies are responding to this whole thing outside of the legal industry. So the next section of this was really about keeping our staff connected. I know this was incredibly important from day one when we knew that we were going remote. You guys have been on seminars galore where you've heard how important it is to keep your staff connected. No surprise there. It was also important for us. And so just a couple of tips that we did. I'm going to move pretty quickly probably through the rest of this presentation here. But we embrace social media to engage and connect with our staff. We also did, our administrator for the firm, Michelle Renfrey, who also joins us at the summit in person, as some of you guys know who have been to the summits in the past. She implemented what she called coffee breaks, where she's actually taking Zoom calls and scheduling Zoom calls to just chat with the staff. That's been incredibly well received. But from our perspective, from marketing, of course, we handle all the social media in-house. So we just wanted to use social media to connect and engage with our staff. So a couple of tips about this. The first one I'm going to give you is to encourage participation. This means making it known around your firm that it's okay to be on social media. You can draw the lines of when it becomes too far, if somebody's sitting on Facebook all day long, but I'd say for probably 80 to 85% of your staff, you could make it okay to be on social media and they're not going to take advantage of it. And in fact, they're going to do things, if you encourage it, that are going to help get your law firm name out there. On the second tip, you should absolutely be involved. I'm always getting Craig involved on social media. Craig does not do social media, but we kind of get him involved by, grabbing a picture of him and posting, getting him to participate in things that we coordinate. So, you should be involved as well. If you're not, why should your staff, right? So that's important for you to be involved. And the third tip is just jump on trends. You can use upcoming holidays or national days to jump on those trends, or you can just jump on trends that you see other law firms or other industries really, and other companies and industries doing. So that's an easy way to get your creative juices flowing. I'm going to share a quick example of how we did this during COVID. This was our community relations manager's idea. So big kudos to Ashley. This was her. She coordinated an effort to get all of our staff to send this message. So as you can see there, it was a great message about Teacher Appreciation Week, which happened last week. It was a little bit of an effort, but not much. She was able to put this all together with her skill set that she has. So it's not that this stuff is complicated. So she put them all together and put it out there. She did a great job with that. And the results really kind of speak for themselves. So these are over 1,000 organic impressions. So over 1,000 organic impressions, shares, comments, and likes. Not a dollar spent on it, just a little bit of time and a unique idea. So that's an example of how you can use social media to keep your staff connected, or at least how we did. I'm going to roll through this one because this is probably the slide that applies to the least number of our attendees here. But I think maybe, as sort of Craig talked before, maybe you have 4 marketing channels and you can sort of apply this philosophy to the marketing channels that you use. He did a really great job of talking about how just look at your expense categories. Start there. Where are you spending money as far as marketing, and use that to inform, what if this is essential, what if this is not essential. So these are just some basic categories that we looked closely at. Outdoor, that's going to include your bus shelters, your bus routes, billboards, broadcast TV, OTT. OTT is a fancy word for basically connected TV. So streaming TV that allows platforms allow for advertising on them, like Roku, for example, and Hulu. Google ads, Bing ads, SEO, your content developers, maybe that is something that you might want to take a look at. You're probably doing some version or some aspect of that, whether you're handling it in-house or whether you have, a web guy, so to speak, or an agency. And then maybe your lead gen providers, maybe you're buying leads from a lead gen company. All this to say, just get thinking about where you're spending your marketing dollars, and see if there's a way that you can ask for what we call, this is a term of art in the industry, in the advertising industry, bonuses or added value. It's basically going and saying, look, my intakes are way down. I either need to cut what I'm spending by half, or I want twice as much exposure. And I'm looking for added value at this time. So, you go to your vendors and use that kind of language, and you'll very likely start a conversation about you know, how the vendor can give you a little bonus on your spend if you keep your spend the same. So just a little tip there. That was something that we did spend a lot of time on because it may or may not apply to you. We just wanted to throw it in there and share that as a thought for you. I'm going to leave you with just some brainstorming here, and then I'm going to be wrapping up in the next minute or so. So just some brainstorming about how, you know, I sort of thought about this as a marketer, kind of how I approach this whole thing as a marketer. And number one is whatever your marketing mix, this kind of goes to what our last slide was all about. Whatever your marketing mix is, whatever you're doing, if social media is your thing, if newsletters are your thing, if email marketing is your thing, if just referral sources are your thing, if you're 100% referral sources like some of the lawyers we know on this call, then just look for deeper opportunities within that mix, within that channel, within whatever you're doing to connect and engage. How can you connect and engage on a little bit of a deeper level during these times? That's how you want to sort of approach these things. Uncover what your client needs, uncover what your client's needs are, and then deliver it. Sort of like how we did. I anticipated that, you know, when people come to our website right now, they're probably not coming for intakes. They're probably existing clients that are concerned, you know, so we anticipated it. We gave it to them. Here's an easy way to get a hold of us. We made it very easy to get a hold of us. So what do your clients need? And deliver it. Find out what it is and deliver it. Stick with familiarity. This is kind of an important one. You know, Craig and I were kicking around a creative idea that I came up with towards the beginning of this year, maybe towards the end of last year, that was going to do a new round of a TV campaign where we were going to make it funny. If you've seen our TV commercials, and you can see them all, they're all on our YouTube channel, go check them out. We have been doing TV commercials for 6 years that I've been here. I've been handling TV commercials. They're all different themes, but they're all sort of the same. It's not the call me, you know, got your money, but it is Craig on camera. It is a sophisticated sort of approach. It is a professional approach. And we were kind of kicking around. I had this creative idea to do a really funny campaign, like a very facetious, very funny campaign. But we're going to put that off. You know, I've kind of decided we're going to put that off for now, because now's not the time to be totally changing up the way that we market. You know, in fact, now's the time to stick with what we know, stick with familiarity, especially when it comes to your clients and prospective clients. Okay. So if you're funny on social media now, just stay funny. You know, if you're serious, stay serious. I just don't think now's the time to experiment. And that's why I've probably put that project off to a later date. Also, this is huge. So portray stability, leadership, and authority. And that goes for your employees, that goes for your partners, it goes for your clients and your staff, okay? It goes for your referral source, everybody, okay? We're all panicked. This is a scary time for all of us, but the goal is to keep that and process that rationally. And you don't want to display panic. You don't want to display that uncertainty. You want to portray stability, leadership, and authority across the board for everybody that you come into. So yeah, it's an emotional time. We get it. It's a scary time. But my best advice is to, you know, not to ignore those feelings, but to approach them rationally and approach them as the business problems to solve that they are. All right. So with that, my last pitch is just kind of a reiteration of what Craig talked about. We do this summit in person. We do it once a year. 2020 was rescheduled for 2021. We've got the date locked in. It's at the same hotel in downtown, I guess, lower Manhattan is the way to describe it, at the W. Beautiful hotel, great venue. It should be a fantastic program. It's unfortunate we didn't get to do it this year, but hey, we just kicked it off to next year. So you guys can all register for that. Right now, registration is open. There is a coupon code for $100 off of the very reasonable price already of $7.99. So you'll get it for $6.99 if you go register. You can do that anytime at sevenfigureattorney.com. That coupon code is scheduled to expire, I think, on the 31st, May 31st. So if you want to register and you've heard some good stuff here, trust me, you're going to hear just as much good stuff when it comes to our 2021 summit. It'll just have more updated stuff for what we've been doing between now and then. So please do register. We appreciate your time. I appreciate you guys sitting through this presentation. And with that, I believe we can hop into some questions. So let's unmute Ashley, see if we have any questions. And I'm going to unmute Craig as well.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're live.
Cool. All right, perfect. So first question is from Brian. So you pay for advertising on Facebook and Instagram to just your existing clients. How much did that cost per client?
So we have the benefit of having a very, very, very large list with this law firm being about 20 years old. We have a very large list of current and former clients. The way that the Facebook ad algorithms work is that the bigger the audience that you, and when I say audience, let me be clear. I take the data from our CRM and I upload it into a custom audience in Facebook. Okay. So I'm taking it, I'm telling Facebook, hey, target just these people is essentially what we're doing. So by uploading a data set of people into this custom audience and providing lots of data points. So making sure that like the first name is right, the contact information is updated, the phone numbers there, the address is there, yada, yada. When you match our data up with Facebook's data, Facebook looks at that data and says, hey, this is really high quality. This is from you, it's high quality. The data is matching our data. And actually the way that Facebook prices what's called cost per impression, that is cost per view of the ad to the viewer, is based on quality, believe it or not. It's actually based on quality. And at least that's one of the big factors. Very much like Google ads, right? So our quality happens to be very, very, very high. So all that to say, our cost per impression is very, very, very low. So I think total spends, we didn't spend very much, a couple of $100. We ran it for a couple of weeks, and we got some really nice engagement on it. It drove a lot of traffic back to the website, which is expected because the ad said, hey, your case, this affects your case. Click here to find out how. And they go, well, hell, so they clicked through. We had a high click-through rate. We had a high engagement rate. Yes, that is the answer. We basically have the benefit of having high quality data, so our cost was very low.
Okay, great. There was actually a second part to that question, and Brian also asked, Tom, do you do the website additions yourself?
Yes, I do. My background in web development lends me very well to be able to do that. In addition to that, we do have a digital marketing manager on staff who his name is Curtis. He's excellent as well. He's very skilled. He handles a lot of the day-to-day management of the website. I'll just kind of step in when I got to do things like coding certain things out or building this, for example, like I built this because I had it in my head and I knew I wanted to do it. But Curtis and I go back and forth on the development, and he handles kind of the day-to-day. But yes, that was my baby. I'm just going to plug in. You guys can keep talking. Go ahead.
So the next question is from Stacy. Can you list the goals of the commercial again, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead. You guys should see my screen already. So let me get back up there and I'll let that sit on the screen while we move forward. So there you go. You guys should see those.
Okay. So next question is from C. Todd. Can you tell us more about advertising to clients on Facebook, and do you also advertise to public on Facebook or Instagram?
So I'll answer that quickly. It's difficult to answer the first part of that. I know Facebook very well. I've been doing it for years. You're going to want somebody who is qualified to do it. So to answer the first part of that question, it is custom audiences. So, if you're managing your own Facebook page, for example, you're perfectly capable of building custom audiences. You probably already have if you build ads. You've used some audience targeting. So it's just another option that Facebook provides, and it's called custom audience. So you can look into that. Second part of the question, no, we don't target new leads on Facebook. I guess we could. I don't. I think that's targeting that relies on Facebook's algorithm to do what's called the in-market targeting. So in other words, like when you tell it, like when you're building your audience and you say, include people who are looking for personal injury, right? That's really that's really squishy data. It's not targeted very well. It's kind of random. It's hit and miss. I mean, they've got data points that Facebook collects and also incorporates from other third-party data aggregators around the web to try to identify who's in that market for personal injury law firm. But my hunch is that it's not very well targeted. So I do not do that.
Okay, great. So it looks like that was the last question that we had.
Right. Good. You guys just got everything then. You saw it and you're like, I get all of this. This is awesome. I love it. All right. Good. Well, I think with that really kind of brings us to the end. Craig, you can talk, I think. I think you're unmuted.
Yep. Well, thank you everybody for attending. Looks like, as I said, we landed the plane perfectly on time. Tom, fantastic presentation as usual. I posted on the chat the link to May 28th, which is next Thursday. I think that's a week from today, where I'm giving another free Zoom seminar on the metrics I use to run my firm. And even if you don't use a CRM, a case management software, even if you don't use Smart Advocate or FileVine or Needles or Litify, the point of that presentation is to get you to think about metrics and your key performance indicators in running your law firm. So I think that would be a benefit to everybody on this conference if you're interested, as most of you are, in how to run your law firm like a business, because studying the data and the metrics is how to run your law firm like a business. So whether you follow what I do on FileVine or Domo is almost irrelevant. It's how to structure how you think about your company and what metrics you measure so that you can figure out how to grow and how to make more money. So I posted that. If you're on the chat, get on the chat right now. And if you don't have time to like write it down because it's that weird Zoom link, just grab your camera and take a picture. It's about 6 inches up on the chat room where I posted the Zoom link, I think, for the meeting on May 28th. So I look forward to seeing you on that. And for those of you who are registered for New York, one person asked, if you did not ask for a refund from April 2020, do you automatically roll over and are you automatically registered? And Tom has given me the thumbs up. So the answer is yes.
Yes. Yep.
So
you guys are good to go. And the other thing, if you lock in we actually haven't quite done prices yet. I mean, you guys are on this call, so we don't mind. We have it at $7.99 like we did last year, but between now and actually when we really start marketing this thing, because we haven't marketed it for 2021 yet at all, we may have to go back over costs and see, because we think maybe our costs might be rising. So just to say, if our costs rise, we're going to pass it on. If you paid for 2020, we're not passing that on to you. Your price is locked in. You paid. You didn't ask for a refund. You're good to go. It's just people who may have asked for refunds or haven't paid or might register in the future. Costs might rise a little bit, but like I said, we keep that cost so rock bottom. We're really just basically passing through our hard costs. We're not making any money off of it. So if you already registered, you're good to go.
So thank you all so much for attending. I love to help people. Many of you have my email. Many of you actually have my cell phone. And it's just a hobby of mine. I love running my law firm, but I also like solving problems for you folks and how you run your businesses. Any of you who are locally who are in Florida, I love going to lunch with you and helping you out. So anytime you want to contact my office, set up a lunch, I'll pay. I just like meeting you guys and I like talking about this crazy stuff.